Hello class, welcome to lesson 2.2, which is all about solving one-step equations. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to solve equations using addition and subtraction, as well as solve equations using multiplication and division. So we have one vocab term for today, and it is called equivalent equations. Equivalent equations have the same solution. So it's going to be two different equations that end up having the same solution that makes it true. Okay, so example 1, let's solve this first example. We have c minus 22 equals 54. I'm going to teach you a method that I want to see on your paper, okay? It's a little tedious right now with one step, but if you keep practicing it, it'll help you once we get to like the multi-step stuff. I'm going to call it teeing it up. So you draw an upside down T with a line going through the equal sign. And what this does is it helps you keep track of your steps. Okay, so in order to get a variable by itself, we had talked about PEMDAS, our order of operations. Well, when you're solving for a variable, you do it the opposite way. It's called SADMEP. Okay? You do it the opposite way. So c minus 22 equals 54. We want to get c by itself. So what we can do is we can move the 22 to the other side. So we want c to be by itself. That means in order to go from negative 22, we want that to become a 0. So we have to do the opposite of subtract. We have to add. So if I add 22 on the left side, you can see that the right side of the t looks a little lonely. So we're going to add the same thing over there. Now what we're left with is we have a c on the left-hand side because negative 22 plus 22 brings us to 0. And then we have 54 plus 22, which is 76. So 76 should be our answer. The way that you can check these, so you should always know if your answer is right or wrong, you can say 76 minus 22. Does that equal 54? So if we do 76 minus 22, 6 minus 2 is 4, 7 minus 2 is 5. It checks out. Sorry, that 54 is a little hard to read on the right-hand side there, but you can see that that one checked out. Let's try it again, but this time we have 113 equals g minus 25. If we tee it up, how do we get g by itself? We have g minus 25, so we want to get that to 0. G and then a 0. So minus 25. If we add 25 to that, that'll leave us with just g. But if we add 25 to the right-hand side, we have to add it to the left-hand side. So now we have g by itself. And then 113 plus 25. 3 plus 5 gives us 8. 1 plus 2 is 3. And we carry down our 1. So 138. And the way that you can check it, you can say 138 minus 25, does that equal our 113? 8 minus 5 is 3, 3 minus 2 is 1, 1 minus 0 is 1. So you can see that checks out. Go ahead and try to solve this one on your own and check your solution. Hopefully for this first one you got your answer to be 40. If not, be sure to ask either myself or a friend, or go back and rewatch that first example. Alright, example 2, solve these two equations. So we have a 63 plus m equals 79. I'll tee that up. How do I get m by itself? I have a positive 63 and I want to get to 0. So I know I have to subtract 63 from this side. To undo addition, you subtract. And that means I have to subtract 63 from this side. And I am left with m equals 79 minus 63. So we have 9 minus 3 is 6. 7 minus 6 is 1. So we know our answer is m equals 16. And you can check it by plugging it back in. So we have 63 plus 16. Does that equal 79? 3 plus 6 is 9. 6 plus 1 is 7. 79. So we know that answer checks out. Let's look at our next one. We have 30 equals 27 plus k. If I tee it up, how do I get k by itself? I have a positive 27, so I know I have to subtract 27 to get rid of it. 30 minus 27 is 3, and we have k. And if we check that, 27 plus 3, does that equal 30? Yes. So we know that that answer is right. K equals 3. Go ahead and try this problem on your own. See how you do. Hopefully you ended up with negative 171. If not, be sure to ask either myself or a friend for some help. Example 3. We want to solve this equation. This is a little bit different because before we were just adding and subtracting. Now we're looking at some multiplication. Okay, so if we have 2/3 q equals 1/2, again, I'm going to tee it up. And before, if we had addition, we did subtraction. If we had subtraction, we did addition to undo it. Multiplication undoes division, and division undoes multiplication. So here you can see 2/3 is being multiplied with q. So to undo that, we are going to divide. Okay, so we want to divide by 2/3. Now this one's a little bit tricky because dividing by a fraction, maybe been a while, but dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal, right? So instead of dividing by 2/3, we can multiply by the reciprocal, which means you flip your fraction. So instead we're going to multiply by 3/2. Okay, so that means I now have 2/3 times 3/2 times q. 2 times 3 gives me 6. 3 times 2 gives me 6 times q. 6 over 6 is just 1 q, which we can just write as q. Okay, so I'm going to erase this and just write q. I just wanted to show you how we got to that point. So now we have q equals, and we have 1/2 times 3/2. 1/2 times 3/2. It's not really teeing it up, but I am just to write our new number. 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 2 is 4. So q equals 3/4. And that will be our answer for that first one. Now, like I said, that one was a little trickier. Did not grab all of those. I'm just going to make this smaller so that way we have more space to do our next one. Alright, now we have 39 equals negative 3r. So 39 equals negative 3r. So starting by teeing it up, if I want to get r by itself, I have a negative 3, and that's times r. So I'm going to undo multiplication with division, and I'm going to divide by negative 3. Divide by negative 3. So now I have r. You might be asking, why didn't I just divide by 3? The reason I didn't do that is because then I would have a negative r left, and we always like our variables to be positive, okay? So that's why I divided by both sides by a negative 3. Now we have 39 divided by negative 3. 39 divided by negative 3 is negative 13. Positive divided by negative is negative. 39 divided by 3 is 13. So we have r equals negative 13. And just like we did before, you can always test these to see if the answer is correct. So we have a negative times negative, so it's positive. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 1 is 3. So we know that answer checks out. Go ahead and try this next example on your own and see how you do. One hint I will give you, though, is to turn them into improper fractions first. So 4 1/3, remember, to turn it into an improper fraction, you multiply the denominator times the whole number, and then you add the top one. So 3 times 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13/4. thirds m equals, and then I would turn that into an improper fraction and finish solving from there. Okay, hopefully for your answer, you got 1 and 23/91. If you have any questions about that, please be sure to let me know. I'd be happy to help. Let's look at our last example together and see how you do. Jamie is driving 780 miles to Memphis. She drove about 3/5 of the distance on the first day. About how many miles did Jamie drive? Okay, so we have a word problem. That means we have to set up our own equation to solve. Okay, so she's driving 780 miles, and she drove 3/5 of the distance the first day. About how many miles did Jamie drive? Okay, so a total of 780 miles. We know she drove 3/5. So if I take our total distance and multiply it by the fraction that she drove, that should tell me how many miles that is. Now this looks a little bit different than our one-step equations. You can see my variable is already by itself, so all that I have to do is multiply these two numbers together. So if I say 780 times 3/5, 780 times 3 is 2,340 over 5 equals m. And if I do 2,340 divided by 5, I know that is 468 miles. That would be my answer. Okay. One important thing with word problems, make sure you always label your answers. Sometimes I will mark off points if you forget to label your answers. It's very important. So a number is just a number, but then when you're talking about word problems, if you just tell me 468, I don't know what that 468 represents. Okay, that's why you need miles. All right, next problem. This is the last one for you to try on your own. Good luck. Hopefully you determined that it will take 8 hours to fill that swimming pool. If you have any questions about that one or any other problems, please be sure to either rewatch the video, ask a friend, come in and see me in the morning, email me, ask questions in class. So many options. Be sure to take advantage of at least one of them, okay? I hope you guys have a great night. See you tomorrow.